80,000 people were singing along, but Michael Jackson suddenly stopped. His eyes had seen something below the stage. The music kept playing. The band kept the rhythm. But Michael Jackson wasn't moving. Wasn't singing. Just staring. Down into the front row. At something. Someone. Security rushed forward. His manager signaled frantically from the wings. The backup dancers froze mid-step, confused. The massive screens showed his face to the arena. Tears were streaming down his cheeks. He dropped the microphone. The arena went silent. What happened next would become one of the most powerful moments in music history. But to understand that moment, we need to go back. Back to where this story really began. 6 months earlier. St. Mary's Children's Home. A small orphanage on the outskirts of Los Angeles. 23 kids. Most abandoned. Some sick. All forgotten by the world. Sister Margaret ran the place. Had for 30 years. She'd seen thousands of children come through those doors. But one boy was different. 7 years old. Terminal leukemia. The doctors gave him 3 months. That was 5 months ago. His name was Thomas. But everyone called him Tommy. Tommy had one dream. Just one. Before he died, he wanted to meet Michael Jackson. He had a poster on his wall. A worn VHS tape of the Dangerous tour he'd watched so many times the tape barely worked anymore. He'd memorized every move. Every step. Every spin. Sister Margaret tried everything. Letters to the record label. Calls to the fan club. Emails that went unanswered. The world was big. Michael Jackson was untouchable. And Tommy was running out of time. Subscribe now because what happens next will show you a side of Michael Jackson the world rarely saw. One night, Sister Margaret was closing up the orphanage. It was late. Past midnight. The kids were asleep. Then she heard a knock at the door. She almost didn't answer. But something told her to open it. Standing in the doorway, wearing a surgical mask and a baseball cap pulled low, was Michael Jackson. No security. No entourage. No cameras. Just him. And a small teddy bear in his hands. "I got your letters," he said quietly. "All of them. I'm sorry it took so long. Can I meet Tommy?" Sister Margaret couldn't speak. Just nodded. Led him upstairs. To the small room at the end of the hall where Tommy slept. Michael Jackson stood in the doorway for a long moment. Watching the small boy sleep. And four in his arm. His breathing shallow. The Michael Jackson poster on the wall above his bed. He walked in. Sat down on the edge of the bed. Placed the teddy bear next to Tommy's pillow. And began to hum. Softly at first. Then stronger. The melody of "Heal the World." Tommy's eyes opened. He looked up. Saw Michael Jackson sitting on his bed. Singing to him. For a moment, Tommy thought he was dreaming. Or dying. Or both. "Hi, Tommy," Michael said softly. "Sister Margaret told me you wanted to meet me." Tommy couldn't speak. Just stared. Eyes wide. Tears forming. "I heard you know all my moves," Michael continued. "Maybe tomorrow you can show me. If you're feeling up to it." Tomorrow. Michael Jackson said tomorrow? Like he was coming back. But here's where this story takes an incredible turn. Something nobody expected. Michael Jackson didn't just visit once. He came back. Every single day. For 3 weeks. He'd arrive after midnight when the paparazzi were gone. He'd sit with Tommy. Sometimes they'd watch videos together. Sometimes Michael would teach him new dance moves, gentle ones Tommy could do from his bed. Sometimes they'd just talk. About music. About life. About being different. Michael told Tommy things he never told anyone. About growing up in the spotlight. About losing his childhood. About what it felt like to be the most famous person in the world but feel completely alone. And Tommy told Michael about being sick. About being scared. About not wanting to die before he'd really lived. On the 14th night, Tommy asked Michael a question. When you're on stage, in front of all those people, do you ever get scared? Michael thought for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out something. His white glove. The one he wore on stage. The one the whole world knew. Every time, Michael said. But you know what I do? I hold on to something that reminds me why I'm there. For me, it's this glove. My brother Jackie gave it to me before my first big performance. He said, when you're scared, just look at your hand. Remember that you're not alone. He placed the glove in Tommy's small hand. Now it's yours, Michael said. When you're scared, you hold on to this. And you remember. You're not alone, Tommy. You're never alone. Tommy held that glove like it was made of gold. Because to him, it was. 3 weeks later, Michael Jackson was in the middle of his world tour. The dangerous tour. Stadium after stadium. City after city. Millions of fans. But every night, after the show, he'd call St. Mary's. Ask about Tommy. Sister Margaret would put the phone to Tommy's ear. And Michael would sing to him. Quietly. Just for him. But Tommy was getting worse. The leukemia was spreading. The doctors said days. Maybe hours. Michael Jackson was scheduled to perform at the Rose Bowl. 80,000 tickets sold. Millions watching on pay-per-view. The biggest show of the tour. He couldn't cancel. Couldn't postpone. Sister Margaret called his manager. Told him Tommy probably wouldn't make it through the night. Asked if there was any way Michael could know. Could say goodbye. The manager promised to tell him. Before the show. The Rose Bowl. August 1993. The energy was electric. 80,000 people. All there to see the king of pop. Michael Jackson took the stage. The opening of Jam exploded through the speakers. The crowd went insane. But Michael Jackson wasn't thinking about the show. He was thinking about a 7-year-old boy in a hospital bed. Holding a white glove. Running out of time. He performed. Wanna be startin' something. Human nature. Smooth criminal. Every song perfect. Every move precise. The show was flawless. Then came Heal the World. The song he'd first hummed to Tommy that midnight in the orphanage. The arena swayed. Lighters flickered. 80,000 voices joined together. It was beautiful. Transcendent. Michael Jackson sang. But his eyes scanned the crowd. Front row. Looking. Searching. And then he saw it. Front row. Center stage. A small figure in a wheelchair. Sister Margaret standing behind. And next to them, somehow, impossibly, was Tommy. Pale. Weak. An oxygen tank beside his wheelchair. But there. Wearing the white glove. Holding it up. Showing Michael. Michael Jackson stopped singing mid-verse. The music played on. But he wasn't moving. Just staring. Down at Tommy. 80,000 people watched in confusion. What was happening? Why did he stop? Michael Jackson dropped the microphone. It hit the stage with a dull thud. The sound echoed through the arena. He walked to the edge of the stage. His security team rushed forward, panicked. But he waved them off. He sat down. Right there on the stage. Legs dangling over the edge. Looking directly at Tommy. For 10 seconds, the Rose Bowl was completely silent. 80,000 people. Not a sound. Then Michael Jackson did something that would be replayed on every news channel for weeks. He took off his fedora. His signature black fedora. The one he never removed on stage. He held it over his heart. And he bowed his head. A single gesture. A moment of silence. For a dying child in the front row. Sister Margaret was crying. Tommy was crying. And slowly, one by one, 80,000 people began to understand what they were witnessing. Share this story and subscribe, because what happens in the next 60 seconds will restore your faith in humanity. Michael Jackson stood up. He signaled to his stage manager. Whispered something. The stage manager hesitated. Then nodded. Security opened a path. And Michael Jackson walked down off the stage. Into the crowd. Straight to Tommy. He knelt down. Right there. In front of the wheelchair. Eye to eye with this 7-year-old boy. You made it, Michael said, his voice barely above a whisper. You're here. I wore the glove, Tommy said, his voice weak but steady. He held up his hand. The white glove reflecting the stage lights. I see that, Michael said. You wore it better than I ever did. He reached out. Took Tommy's hand. The one wearing the glove. And he held it. Just held it. While 80,000 people watched in complete silence. Then Michael did something even more remarkable. He stood up. Looked at the security team. Bring his wheelchair. He's coming with me. Before anyone could object, before protocols could be cited, Michael Jackson was already pushing Tommy's wheelchair. Toward the stage. Up the ramp. Onto the platform where moments before he'd been performing for millions. The band didn't know what to do. The backup dancer stood frozen. This wasn't in the script. This wasn't planned. Michael Jackson pushed Tommy to center stage. Right where he'd been standing. The spotlight found them both. Tommy taught me something important, Michael said into his microphone, his voice echoing through the arena. He taught me that real courage isn't about performing in front of crowds. It's about fighting battles nobody sees. Tommy's been fighting the hardest battle there is. And he's been winning. Every single day. The crowd erupted in applause. But Michael held up his hand. He wasn't finished. Tonight, Tommy and I are going to finish this song together. If you know the words, I want you to sing. Not for me. For him. Let him hear 80,000 voices telling him he's not alone. Michael Jackson sat down on the stage. Right there. Next to Tommy's wheelchair. He started singing. Heal the world. Again. From the beginning. And 80,000 people sang with him. But the truly unbelievable part of this story? It didn't end there. Tommy stayed on stage for the entire rest of the show. Michael Jackson performed around him. Danced near him. Every few songs he'd stop. Touch Tommy's shoulder. Make sure he was okay. During Man in the Mirror, Michael brought Tommy the microphone. Let him sing a line. Tommy's small, weak voice coming through speakers to 80,000 people. Singing Michael Jackson's words. The arena went absolutely wild. When the show finally ended, 2 hours later, Michael Jackson took his final bow. Then he knelt down one more time next to Tommy. He took off his other glove. The right hand one. The one he'd worn throughout the entire show. He placed it in Tommy's lap. Now you have the pair, he said. Complete set. Nobody else in the world has that. Just you. Tommy looked up at him with tears streaming down his face. Thank you, he whispered. For everything. Thank you, Tommy, Michael said. For reminding me why I do this. The ambulance took Tommy back to St. Mary's that night. The doctors said the excitement should have killed him. That his body shouldn't have been able to handle it. But something changed that night. Maybe it was adrenaline. Maybe it was pure will. Maybe it was something else entirely. Tommy lived another 3 months. 3 months the doctors said were impossible. And every single day, he wore those gloves. Both of them. The left one Michael gave him that night in the orphanage. The right one from the Rose Bowl. When Tommy finally passed, peacefully in his sleep, he was wearing them. Sister Margaret made sure of it. At the funeral, a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a handwritten letter from Michael Jackson. And a check. For $500,000. Made out to St. Mary's Children's Home. The letter was simple. Tommy taught me that fame means nothing if you can't use it to help someone. That stages are just platforms. That the real performance is how you treat people when nobody's watching. I'm not a hero. But Tommy was. And I want to make sure other kids like him have a chance to find their own dreams. This money is for St. Mary's. Build something beautiful. In Tommy's name. So his courage is never forgotten. With love and respect, Michael. Sister Margaret used that money to build a new wing at St. Mary's. They called it the Thomas Wing. In the main hall, there's a glass case. Inside is a photograph. Michael Jackson and Tommy on stage at the Rose Bowl. Both smiling. And next to the photograph, on a red velvet cushion, are 2 white gloves. Michael Jackson never spoke publicly about Tommy. Never used the story for publicity. Never mentioned it in interviews. When reporters asked about that night at the Rose Bowl, about why he stopped the show, he'd just smile and say, "Sometimes the show isn't about the performance. It's about the people." The gloves remain at St. Mary's. A reminder that the greatest performances happen when nobody's watching. That real power isn't about commanding a stage. It's about kneeling down to meet someone at eye level. Michael Jackson changed music forever. But that night, he changed something else. He showed the world that being the king of pop meant nothing compared to being human. Tommy's legacy lives on. Not in headlines or history books, but in the quiet moments when someone chooses compassion over protocol. When someone stops the show for what really matters. Subscribe and share this story. Let Tommy's courage and Michael's humanity remind us all what it means to truly see each other.